Hey everybody, here's what's coming up tonight on Now. So Hurricane Jose has been kind of close to New England, enough so to make some of those waves get a lot bigger. Chris Costa checking out the surf in person. We'll show you what it looked like.
Plus, in honor of Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, we're continuing that conversation, this time with a representative from NAMI.
And Patriots quarterback Tom Brady has written a book. It's a bestseller, but will Bill Belichick be reading it? We'll find out.
This is News Center now. Rain is staying offshore, but the seas are angry this afternoon as Tropical Storm Jose swirls off the coast of New England. Good evening, everyone. I'm Amanda Hill.
And I'm Lee Goldberg. Most of Maine covered by clouds and fog. Today's kind of a yucky day, but it's really the shoreline and the marinas that are feeling the effects of Jose. We kicked Keith Carson out of the office. He's over at Two Lights in Cape Elizabeth checking things out for the first look at the weather. Hey, Keith.
Hey guys, yeah, you know, the waves are traditionally pretty big here, right? So that's kind of where you have to start your expectations. But I'd say they're probably 4 or 5 feet bigger than average crashing on shore here. And remember, high tide was right around noon, so we're in a relatively low tide here. Quite a few people actually came out and they're surveying the waves. I've noticed the longer you live in Maine, there's a lot of people who love an angry sea. So any big storm, when I come out here to nerd out, a lot of other people are already here. All right, let's take a look at what we got going on. High surf advisory still in effect here through tonight. And actually some of the waves will peak in some spots tomorrow, just because of the direction that Jose is moving, the way it's kind of curving off to the south and east. But again, Jose never got close enough to us, never into the Gulf of Maine to get us that direct fetch of winds, and that's why the winds have been 10, 15 miles an hour. That's about it. Jose's satellite presentation hasn't been good for days, and that continues to be the case. They're very elongated. Now a tropical storm. The center of circulation is obviously well to the south and east of Nantucket, and it will just kind of spin sideways there to the right, if you will, but to the east as the storm moves away. High pressure nudging in for the weekend. Notice though all the bands of rain pretty much offshore. That kind of surprised me a bit. I thought we'd get a few of these bands in here, but that just hasn't really been the case. And because of that, we haven't been able to have the momentum transfer to get these winds down to the surface. So winds sitting around 5 to 10 miles an hour, some gusts around 20 miles an hour or so. May see a few higher ones later tonight, but again, most of the winds are staying offshore with the precipitation that's sitting out over the Gulf of Mexico there. Jose obviously was never really predicted to be that big of an event, and it turns out it is just a coastal event with some big waves out there. We do have to talk about Maria maybe at some point next week, so a heavy tropical season with maybe some impacts to New England as well. Let's first though go down the coastline to Long Sands where Chris Costa is standing by. And Chris, I don't know if you're seeing waves that are bigger than we are here at Two Lights or if it's any windier there.
Yeah, Keith, not super windy down here. The waves here, not as big as they were this morning, probably still about that 3 to 4 foot range, but they were really pumping earlier. Obviously, these conditions are somewhat foreign to southern Maine. We don't get to see these all the time, so it's bringing out the thrill seekers, the sightseers, all of whom are hoping to experience nature's power. Tropical Storm Jose is sending big waves to Maine's coastline. Irresistible conditions for surfers.
It's pretty good out there. This is the stuff we wait for. We live for this stuff, the fall, the winter, good waves, fewer people.
Christopher Wilson surfs at Long Sands Beach in York year-round and says storm swells are like an early Christmas gift.
I'll wake up early sometimes and I'm just like, oh, it's only 3? I wish it was 5 so I could actually go right now, you know? Yeah, you wake up thinking about it.
After Labor Day, there's a noticeable lack of lifeguards. But that doesn't stop lifelong shredder Roger Wharton.
There's so many weather systems giving us waves, I can't even, you just lose track.
Many of the surfers we spoke to say they expect to see more waves like this over the next couple of days, and they hope to see even bigger ones from Hurricane Maria.
It's nice to have some energy in the water. It makes life a lot easier out there because less effort to surf them because there's more power in the water.
Yesterday was really big, and hopefully it'll get better.
It's a hard feeling to describe. The combination of peace and adrenaline
that comes with gliding along a glassy wave, even one that's head high.
There's nothing like catching a wave and going down the line. There's just no other feeling like it. It's definitely the stoke.
It's a balancer. I mean, it's life balance. Like no matter what goes on for the rest of the day, how hard or easy or whatever comes, the day is complete.
Now, obviously, these waves look like a lot of fun, but you really do need to be an experienced surfer to be out here. The fire departments locally urging people, if you are going to go out with a buddy. Make sure you're secured to your board. And if you feel tired, get out of the water. Just observe some of those common sense general safety rules. And again, same thing if it goes for if you're sightseeing. Make sure you just stay back and watch it from afar. It's going to be a lot safer that way, and again, better safe than sorry, right, Lee and Amanda?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, Chris. Sorry, that's awesome. Hanging out in the water today. Thank you very much, sir. All right, now while Mainers are making the most of Jose, Americans in the Caribbean are weathering yet another massive storm. Roofs were rattling, trees swaying, and strong winds as Hurricane Maria made landfall in Puerto Rico. The entire island is without power right now. And the last time there was a Category 4 hurricane that hit landfall in Puerto Rico, that was 1932. One of the surfers that Chris just talked to today, named Gia Fillmore, is originally from Puerto Rico. She says almost all of her family is down there and that their home has suffered some serious damage from the storm.
All of the windows had gotten blown in, and the eye of the hurricane hadn't even gone by where his area was yet. So just kind of praying for him out there, praying for my people in Puerto Rico, hoping for the best.
All right, Maria has left Puerto Rico. It is now a Category 2 hurricane.
Yeah, and unfortunately yet another disaster to talk to you guys about. Volunteers and first responders are just digging through the rubble of a Mexico City school, desperately searching for any survivors of yesterday's 7.1 magnitude earthquake. Rescuers have pulled at least 25 bodies out of that school. All but 4 of them were children. Dozens are still missing. The death toll from that quake stands now at least 225.
The Bangor Mall is at risk of defaulting on its loans, according to a report from Commercial Real Estate Direct. A reporting agency says the mall's value has been sliced in half since the loans were written, thanks to a number of stores closing. It's unclear at this moment what a default could mean for shoppers. The mall's owner still has a lot of options, including refinancing.
All right, still to come on now. They're some of the first people that head out into the storm, working to get your power back on. Should line workers be considered first responders? We'll hear what you have to say coming up.
And we're continuing our conversation about mental illness and suicide prevention. So send in your questions on our Facebook Live right now, and we will be right back after this. When someone is struggling with thoughts of suicide, family and friends may be completely unaware, but sometimes there are signs. This month is all about learning to recognize those signs and starting conversations about depression. So today, Jenna Maynard from the National Alliance on Mental Illness joins us. And we'll start with this, Jenna, because it seems as though suicide is something that's affecting so many teenagers. Why is that?
So the teenage population is at an elevated risk actually because of brain development. The frontal cortex of your brain, the part that kind of is responsible for deductive reasoning, isn't fully developed till sometime around 24. So when something feels like it's the end of the world to your teen, it really is for them. The importance there is for parents and loved ones to be present, to have conversations, not to just say, oh, you'll get over it, but to let them express what they're feeling and really be present for that.
One of those other groups that seem to be at risk, middle-aged men.
Yeah, unfortunately, Maine leads New England in our suicide rate for middle-aged men. It's a population that doesn't get a lot of conversation because we all know getting men to talk about their thoughts and their feelings can be a little challenging. In fact, only 1/3 of men nationwide have a trusting relationship with their primary care doctor, and that's the person they're most likely to talk about if they're struggling with depression. So getting men to have a primary care doctor, to pay attention to their own mental health, to do things like exercise, eat well, and sleep, and really feel comfortable talking to someone if they feel like they're struggling.
We talked about how sometimes there aren't signs, but sometimes there are. If you're concerned about a loved one, how do you support them?
So the challenge is really understanding those signs because they're not clearly visible that means someone might be at risk for suicide. So the ability to read, come to a mental health first aid or suicide awareness training, NAMI Maine does those trainings all over the state to increase your awareness and comfort. The most important thing is just opening the door. I'm concerned about you. How are you doing? And not with any dread, not with sort of, how are you today, where we all expect to say fine. right? But to really be present and make it safe for someone to say, I'm really struggling. And not be like, oh, that's more than I want to hear, but to really say, oh, can I help? Can I listen? What can I do to be helpful?
So this entire month, we're talking about this. Is that part of the deal here, is breaking down some stigma behind mental illness?
Yeah, for years it was, don't ever talk about suicide because that increases the risk. Actually talking about it, knowing that we can prevent suicide through conversations is really powerful, and recognizing it's a tough topic, but the more we talk about it, the more awareness we have, the more comfort we have in talking about mental health, we can decrease the number of people we lose to suicide and decrease the amount of time it takes for someone to seek help. On average, that's 10 years. We'd like people to get help as soon as they feel like they're struggling with something.
Of course, you have a number of resources on your website. What is that website?
NAMIMaine.org.
Easy enough. And you have an event coming up this weekend.
Yeah, our walk is on Sunday at Southern Maine Community College. Registration starts at 9. It's a fun event. It's really to raise awareness about the importance of paying attention to mental health, to attack stigma, what prevents us all from getting help. And really, we have face painters, balloon tires, dogs are welcome. It's a fun event, a DJ, really just to say, hey, mental health matters. The more we talk about it, the more lives we save, the more lives we improve.
All right, Jenna, always a pleasure talking to you. Always good information. Thank you for coming in.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Lee?
All right, he's been on Earth for almost a century and has zero plans to retire.
Well, it kind of makes me feel like I'm a little younger.
Meet this young at heart crossing guard and the school children who honored him with a very special surprise. And good thing Keith has two eyes, because one's on Tropical Storm Jose, one's on Hurricane Maria, who might be making her way up the coast. Your full forecast after the break. Welcome back, everybody. This morning we received a message on Facebook sharing a link to this post. Volunteers gassing up and heading to Florida to help people get their lights back on and recover from the devastation down there. In the last few weeks, so many line workers, electricians, truckers, you name it, from Maine volunteered their time to help those whose lives have been impacted by these hurricanes. These videos were posted by Sarah a few days ago. It says these volunteers rigged these trucks so they can provide the most assistance. So thank you to all of them.
Really cool. Of course, we see it here in Maine when there's a tough nor'easter. We have a big snowstorm.
Yeah, those that are affected by hurricanes are seeing it as well. Some of the first people out on the scene of a disaster are line workers fighting to keep the electricity on. Now, there's a petition on change.org arguing that line workers should be recognized as first responders. We asked you for your opinion on Facebook.
Sydney says yes, power can often mean the difference between life and death for those who are on oxygen or have other medical conditions. And she says line workers risk their lives when they go out in a storm. Elias says working to restore power is noble, but it may not qualify as a first responder since they don't have medical training for emergency situations or help the injured. But Kathy says it's just a title and shouldn't matter. They all have important skills and deserve our appreciation.
Well, I think those are great comments, and obviously great work that they're doing. And Mainers helping people in other states, no surprise here.
Huge help. Yep. Last week we talked to one of those line workers who was in Georgia helping a hospital get back online. So.
But it's true, and when you lose your power, that's the worst. I mean, you know, obviously so much devastation, but getting your power back is huge. So.
Right. So thank you to them. Okay.
So we're done with Jose, almost. Now we're watching Maria. It seems like it's one hurricane on to the next one. Keith, what's going on with this stuff?
Yeah, it's been an active season for sure. By the way, I'd weigh in on that and said they should be considered first responders. I had been to a number of tornado damaged areas where they were the first ones in. They were cutting down trees, power lines and whatnot. But anyways, meanwhile, not having that problem with Jose, you know, we're out here with two lights and just taking a look at some of the waves. This is usually a pretty good spot for big waves, so you have to measure it off the threshold of the fact that waves are pretty big here to begin with. I'd say though they've added about 4 or 5 feet to the average swell, and that lines up to the buoy reports that we've got out there. You know, we knew Jose wasn't going to be a big deal for Maine, but I will say that it is very calm wind-wise in a spot that is normally pretty exposed here. Look at the wind speeds across the state: 8 miles an hour in Portland, 7 in Rockland. I mean, this is nothing breezier than really a summer afternoon in a lot of spots. So that's one thing that does surprise me a bit. I thought we might get some gusts up to 30, 35 miles an hour. We have not seen that happen yet. Jose hasn't looked good on satellite for days now. It amazed me that last night it was technically still even a tropical storm because it just didn't have that look. And now, I'm sorry, a hurricane. Now it is a tropical storm. It's elongated. It doesn't have any development on the southern side. And the rain bands aren't even moving in to Maine. It has been a largely dry day. Not a good looking day, but a dry day for a lot of the state, with the rain you could see staying out of the Gulf of Maine. So 8-foot buoys, 7-foot buoys, again, nothing crazy. Look to the south and east there, 18 feet. They're almost just southeast of Cape Cod, so that's where the big swells are. And some of these swells will peak for us tomorrow. But for most of us, tomorrow will be a nice day. We'll start to clear out in the afternoon, sunshine, temperatures in the 70s. It will be breezy, but it will be relatively pleasant as well. And then I think on Friday, we see a few of those clouds kind of lash back in along the coastline. So I'm playing Friday as a little cloudy along the coast, but nice everywhere else, including inland and mountain locations. And then the weekend is looking fantastic pretty much all the way around. All right, the much bigger storm now is Maria, of course, devastating effects to Puerto Rico. I'll tell you what, when that thing came on shore late last night, it just looked like a buzzsaw, really strong looking eye wall center, and I think catastrophic in Puerto Rico. You're gonna hear more about that obviously as we get more information. Maria probably not going to be a deal for the continental United States, but I'm not ready to completely write it off because the computer models have brought it a little bit closer to the East Coast here in their modeling, particularly as we head into early next week. And it may, in some form, buzz by New England, much like Jose, as we head into mid-late next week. So we'll keep an eye on that. I think it would be a similar situation to this where it wouldn't be a big event, but we'd see some big swells there offshore and maybe a few gusty winds depending on the exact track. So we'll keep an eye on Maria. It's been such an active season, and so many of these storms have had a tilt at least to the eastern seaboard, a chance at least of getting in there. All right, after that, burying the lead here, what a beautiful weekend. Saturday and Sunday look great. Mild again on Monday. Temperatures on Sunday afternoon away from the coastline will be in the mid and upper 80s, and will stay mild until Tuesday when we start to cool down there, and some showers back in the forecast on Wednesday, probably Wednesday afternoon. Again, what happens with Maria is going to be really crucial to the latter part of that forecast. But Lee and Amanda, you know, it is going to be a huge contrast. It's been a little coolish. It has been humid, but I think some inland communities could hit 90, if not Sunday, wow, Monday afternoon, which is relatively unusual for this part of September.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know about you, but when I think about temps in the late high 80s and mid 90s, I think about hockey. I mean, isn't that the first thing that comes to mind? I mean, you feel like it's that hot, you're going to talk about hockey. Well, now we're going to know soon the name of Portland's new ECHL hockey team.
Or we at least use that as a transition into the story, because next Friday the team will announce its name and mascot. Mainers and hockey fans were invited to vote for their favorite of 5 options. The Mariners, obviously a classic, the Watchmen, the Wild Blueberries, the Lumberjacks, or the Puffins. And those names were nominated by fans as well. The poll is still up right now, so get your vote in while you still can. Sports fans are ready to welcome the new minor league hockey team after the Portland Pirates moved more than a year ago.
Bill, you throw Brady a bone and buy his book?
You know, we see Tom every day. I don't really feel like I need to read a book.
Well, not a lot of people agree with Coach Belichick, because the TB12 method is currently the second highest selling book on Amazon. Tom Brady's book was released on Tuesday. Many readers pre-ordered it months ago. Apparently, Bill Belichick was not one of them. The Patriots will play the Houston Texans on Sunday. So there's that.
All right, and tonight on News Center at 6, we will kick off another season of the Varsity Club. Jack Webb of Thornton Academy will be the first inductee of the year, so be sure to check it out.
It's my favorite part of the year. We're looking to showcase the top student athletes in the state, from York County to Aroostook County and everywhere in between. If you know of a senior who warrants consideration, have a coach or a school administrator, send an email to varsityclub@wcsh6.com or varsityclub@wlbz2.com. At the end of the year, we'll present one boy and one girl with a $2,500 scholarship in memory of Bruce Glazier, who pioneered the Varsity Club more than 3 decades ago. All right, so that comes up at 6, Varsity Club. But before that, there's a lot more local news coming your way. Let's check in with Cindy Williams for that.
Hi, guys. We've got another report, a disturbing one, of an attempted abduction in Knox County. The sheriff's office reported a white van in Owl's Head trying to pick up children yesterday. Well, today, a mother posted on Facebook that her son was approached by a van this morning. We'll have more on that. Plus, Governor LePage's attempt to build a new mental health facility in Bangor. All that coming up at 5:30, and we'll be right back.
Well, we certainly can't speak for everybody, but I think it's fairly safe to say not a lot of kids look forward to going to school every single day.
All right, and dropping kids off isn't exactly the highlight of a parent's day, but for families at one school, walking to class is the best part of their day. Sean Giggy reports from Texas.
There are many important people at Mitchell Elementary in Plano, but perhaps none more treasured than the man across the street.
All right, baby.
Luther Walker has been the crossing guard here since 2006.
All right, Ross.
He turns 94 this week.
Y'all have a great day. He's an inspiration.
This World War II veteran worked at a bakery most of his life, but says nothing beats this.
Well, it kind of makes me feel like I'm a little younger.
He doesn't make much money and often struggles to pay rent on his apartment. Still, he's never felt richer.
Baby, it feels so good.
Luther truly loves his job.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, he hasn't missed a day since he was 83.
All right, baby.
Until one day last week, when he just never showed up.
That never, ever happened.
The children were so worried, the staff was worried, everybody kept checking for updates on him, and he's part of our family.
Turns out, Luther had taken a late-night drive the day before when he started feeling dehydrated. They later found him on the side of the road, passed out in his car. For Luther, it wasn't that serious, but for his family here at Mitchell Elementary, it was a big deal.
And we just wanted to make sure that the time we do have with them, we're here to appreciate him and love on him and treasure him.
Happy birthday to you.
For those reasons and a million more, the kids gave him a huge birthday surprise.
Thank you so much.
They made him cards, gave gifts, and even paid the rent for his apartment.
Thank you so much. That means more than anything in the world. That helps me maybe live a little longer.
Such an incredible act of kindness wouldn't have been possible without the crossing guard, who helped show them the way.
Have a good day. God bless you. A wonderful day. Thank you.
All right, that was Sean Giggy reporting from our partner station in Texas. As I was saying,
How
I like
cool
the
is that
Pirates.
crossing guard?
Oh, I thought we were going back to hockey
Sure,
here.
Maine Mariners. I think Maine Mariners
ditching
is your choice. Okay.
All right, well, we should wrap this up.
Yeah.
News Center at 5:30.
Maine Mariners. News Center at 5:30, starting right now.